gone. I was betrayed by the one I trusted most.
Okay, so the Jedi Survivor trailer dropped recently, and so I just want to have a quick scrub through this trailer for things that we can notice, things that might hint towards changes in gameplay and maybe some hints towards the story. Quick one, take one, bit off the cuff. Let's see what we got here. Okay.
The order is gone. I was betrayed by the one I trusted most. I will not be imprisoned again.
So we have some clues as to who that might be, or at least where they may come from, touching on later, and we'll circle back round to that betrayal. So I do want to talk about this guy, because there's some interesting things here in the design of the character and the weapon they're using. So you'd notice that it is a lightsaber, but it is seemingly a yellow, maybe an orange blade, but it certainly doesn't look red to me. Most enemies we encounter in this period, any antagonist in any of the stories, are going to be dark side orientated and aligned with the Sith generally, and have red lightsabers. Orange lightsabers and yellow lightsabers are fairly rare, and don't seem to really show up in this time period. Guards and sentinels use them, especially in the High Republic era, and they're force users that tend to be more middling in their outlook. So it would be pretty interesting. Also, their general design leans more mechanical and less away from a lot of the Sith and the Jedi design. It looks like a power suit of some kind. Potentially this could actually be a proto lightsaber, which at this point would be thousands of years old. So that could be unlikely. And we can't see the bottom of the hilt where the cable would plug into, so maybe it's not. And also it looks like this potentially could have flip down crossguards on it. That could inspire Cow's design later on. So there's a couple of things here. So we've seen him crashing the ship. We noticed that most of his companions, like Grease, we don't see at any point throughout this trailer. So there may be an element of them being missing or hurt and having to track them down. Also looking out in the scenery here, it seems that there are going to be some areas of this game that are much more open, not completely open world, I would doubt, but maybe more akin to like the Lake of Nine, or in God of War, or the crater area of Vanaheim in God of War Ragnarok. Just certain pockets of semi-open world gameplay, or at least a bit more so than the first game. Looking at the landscape here, as well as a few things that indicate that later on, which I'll stop at.
I hear you've been busy.
So we do see her here. The only person from the first game we do see again, obviously apart from Cal, in this trailer. There seems to be a Jedi archive in the background. It looks similar to the ones you see on Coruscant in the Jedi Temple throughout the prequels, for example. That potentially could be them continuing to track down leads about Jedi and where they might be, and continuing on the mission from the first game, which might lead them to the guy in the tank we saw earlier.
Making yourself the Empire's most wanted.
Similar ability that we've seen in the first game, and then we have this, which seems to be a new kind of animal taming ability. Probably Jedi mind trick orientated. There are some examples of basically Jedi animal taming abilities in the wider lore, so that seems to be what's happening here. So yeah, those two scenes there, again showing the wider landscape and the ability with two separate animals to increase traversal speed, seems to indicate that will be a larger part of the game rather than a one set sequence where you might just be riding on an animal. It might be there's something to help you travel these larger distances in these semi-open world areas. This gliding thing here is a bit more akin to something like a Zelda Breath of the Wild, maybe.
Jedi.
Don't know exactly who this is, but obviously he's an enemy. We'll see him again in a bit. Through most of these scenes, obviously we can see he has the two lightsabers separate, one on his hip still, and then the other one he is wielding. There's stuff that indicate that there might be multiple stances, or at least more than there was in the first game. Obviously in the first game you could graduate to a dual-bladed lightsaber, or you could use it single-bladed. There was a combo which allowed you to split it into dual wield. There's more examples here that I'll show that seem that they are separate stances entirely. A single-bladed, a dual-wielded, and just a double-bladed. And then later on the crossguard as well.
Jedi.
Also here you can see that his holster is empty. It looks like it could have something more on the left there, and there's more to be shown later on, where it seems that a pistol would go there, but here it is empty. It's a question of if it's empty because they've removed it, or you just haven't got that at this part of the game.
Friend here, why his kind are supposed to be dead.
Here we go.
There's an example of him changing into the dual wield mode, rather than it seems to be a specific mode as opposed to a just a single move within a combo.
After all we've done,
This is a kind of a Wampa, or like a jungle version of a Wampa, and then he straight up hulks him like Loki.
the Empire's only grown stronger.
Single-bladed again. So here we see some kind of new companion. He looks to be a bit of a bounty hunter. You'll see in a bit he seems to have a jetpack, and he seems to be dual-wielding pistols.
Explode.
Part of the job, Custis.
So you see, cool combo, and he just bodies that guy into the ground.
The Jedi is a threat.
Oh boy, he's all grown up. Got a beard now.
Now that we
Use of the double-bladed there, as it was in the first game, seems to be a bit more crowd control focused. So here we see this guy again. So this was the guy in the tank we saw. We saw him in the first trailer as well. Now his robes are quite ornate, a bit white and gold. Seems to indicate the High Republic era, which is probably like 200 years before this game. I think it goes for back as maybe like 400 years. So it's seeming that he might have been in stasis that length of time. Now here, obviously, we see him aligned with the enemy. So he seems to be probably the main antagonist of the game. And he's holding this like relic here, this device that was used in the first game, I believe. I can't remember what it was called. That Cal did have earlier. I think if we go back, I think when we saw him here, I think that's him holding that device in his hand. We can also see that Cal has sought this guy out, and it seems he does come here multiple times, or maybe moves him. I don't think all these scenes are in the same location, though these two are. There also seems to be potentially tanks in the background, though this one is special. Bear in mind that at this point the guy had mentioned that he was a prisoner and that he would not be a prisoner again. It's potential that within the archives or on their journey, Cal has found this guy or evidence of him and sought him out. maybe didn't initially release him, but it seems like he's voluntarily releasing him here, as opposed to him escaping. And since he ends up as an antagonist later on, that potentially could have been a mistake. Perhaps he thought he was a Jedi and he was not. Maybe he was a Jedi, but or at least aligned with the Jedi of the time. But the betrayal is vague. Was he betrayed by the Jedi? Does he believe the Jedi order betrayed him, but that was because his allegiances were changing, his morals were changing, kind of how Anakin, for example, would believe the Jedi were betraying him because of how his opinions and beliefs started to deviate from the Jedi. It could potentially also be that the Jedi of the age, again, over 200 years ago at this point, could potentially be different from what Cal expected. And so he potentially could release him on purpose with a goal, and then find out that actually their morals and their goals don't align. And then he has to seek to rectify that mistake.
The Jedi is a threat.
Not now that we have this.
So here we see the dual wield blocking, able to block a large amount of blaster fire while running.
As long as we fight.
A grapple. That is something we didn't have in the first game. It could potentially be the pistol holster isn't just a blaster or a blaster at all. Maybe it is more for a grapple hook, but it seems that there is a blaster involved with it. See the crossguard lightsaber.
Hope survives.
And here we see it being used. So I was wondering if this was a separate lightsaber or a modification of his own. He does still have the other lightsaber on his hip there. So I think this is a modification of one of those halves, judging by the length of the lightsaber hilt still on his hip. So maybe one half of the dual wield can get modified and be used as this crossguard, larger lightsaber, a bit more weight to it, or the feeling of weight, a bit more like a claymore. Also in that same scene, you can see in one of them here, you should be able to see the there we go, you can just about see it there. So he does have some kind of pistol in that holster now. There are skins, I think, or part of like the deluxe edition that have been shown, and part of that does include skins for a blaster. So maybe it's just a grapple, or maybe it's a blaster. Obi-Wan does say how a Jedi does not use blasters. However, he has used them before, and at this point, why Cal is aligning with the old ideals of the Jedi, he is not necessarily going by the book. So whether this blaster is going to be used in combos, what value it has for taking out enemies, potentially being more stealthy, also in terms of perhaps being undercover, being able to have combat arrangements without making yourself as obvious, using a lightsaber, because obviously Jedi are still hunted at this point. There might be areas of the game where you rely on that more for that reason. Perhaps potentially also in the open world esque areas. Maybe you might have a mission to go through an area where you want to remain incognito as a Jedi, but may still encounter enemies. The heavier, more claymore-based stance. And it's coming out in March, so I'm looking out for that. I definitely am going to play this one when it comes out. Let me know what you're interested in. Other than that, I think that rounds off this video. Alright, take care.